Hello, in this video we will understand about the sepsis. The sepsis is the compensatory mechanism we will understand. So what is the sepsis? Sepsis is basically the infection of the bacteria, fungi and virus which that will lead to multi organ failure and the dysfunction of the organ, and in this way death can cause by the pathogens. Let's understand about that pathogen like bacteria, fungi and virus will invade, enter into the person, and when enter into the person is known as infection, and infection of host which that will lead to activate the innate immune response, the innate immune cell like neutrophil and macrophage first. This is the first line of defense after the barrier immunity. So allergen is also important for creation of sepsis. How it is possible? Let's understand about that. Allergen basically will trigger the mast cell to produce histamine like and leukotrienes, which that will lead to vasoconstriction and vasodilation. Vasodilation will increase. So remember that things. And in this way, the vasoconstriction in some blood vessel, but the vasodilation will occur. The bacteria, fungi, and virus when enter into the blood circulatory system will lead to endothelial dysfunction also. Infection of the host will lead to innate immune response like neutrophil activate after the engulfing of the bacteria or virus. But the Staphylococcus aureus bacteria will inhibit the neutrophil, and inflammation progress and macrophage recruitment will be inhibited if the neutrophil will die. So the fever, leukocytosis, the leukopenia and left shift and the bandemia, which that will occur due to the dysfunction and the inflammation progression. Anyhow, the compensatory response we will understand. The compensatory response is the tachypnea, altered the level of consciousness, and hypotension. Hypotension is due to the histamine also, and the histamine is the vasodilator, remember, not vasoconstrictor. So in this way, the infection of the lungs, which that will lead to and low blood pressure will lead to low oxygen move into the blood circulatory system will lead to hypoxemia, hypotension due to, and the hypoxia in the cell, which that will lead to perfusion and oxygen delivery to organs decrease. When the perfusion and oxygen delivery to organs will decrease, will lead to cell injury and cause cancer or necrosis, the injury of the cell. In this way, the mean arterial pressure will be decreased and the lactate will increase more than 2 millimole per liter, while the less than 65 millimeter of mercury, the mean arterial pressure will drop. And in this way, lactic acidosis and blood acidosis can occur, and the pH imbalance in cells and in blood, and that require the vasopressors to mean arterial pressure. Anyway, this is the compensatory mechanism for the tissue and the blood, the lactic acidosis, and in this way the hypoxia will lead to cell injury, and in this way the organ failure. The multi-organ failure will lead to life threat to death if the cure is impossible or severe cases. Anyhow, the endothelial dysfunction is due to the bacterial infection as well as the histamine overproduction due to the allergic response, and in this way the capillary leakage due to the vasodilation and more aneurysm can occur will lead to capillary leakage, and this capillary leakage will lead to many organ failures. So the multi organ failure will lead to life threat. This is the epigenetic causes and the susceptibilities due to the genetics. Epigenetic causes which that will lead to alter the DNA due to the UV radiation, bacteria, infection and the injury of the cell. and in this way will lead to cell injury and death, and this death and injury will lead to progress of disease and infection to same mechanism to cause death if the severe case. Let's understand about the another factors collectively for the understanding of the sepsis. So the comorbidities is the multiple diseases infection, pathogen virulence, and the vulnerable infection site, as well as genetics. So comorbidities means the more than one infection will lead to immunosuppression or increase the susceptibility. Example is the splenectomy. Invasion for the pathogen virulence is the invasion and immune avoidance will lead to adaptive immune response decrease. The adaptive immune response decrease will lead to dysregulation of host response. On the other hand, the increase the likelihood of spread of infection and mortality, and the genetic will lead to sensitivity of the innate response. Will lead to all factors called dysregulation of host responses. Will lead to pro and anti-inflammatory response. This pro and anti-inflammatory response will lead to organ dysfunction due to the overproduction of the anti-inflammatory mediators, will lead to organ dysfunction and septic shock. The septic shock is basically persistent hypotension despite adequate fluid resuscitation. By in this manner, let's understand about the several organ dysfunction like respiratory. The respiratory means the partial pressure of oxygen when drop, and in this way the oxygen drop in the form of millimeter of mercury is the less than 65 millimeter of mercury will lead to decrease the oxygen, will lead to cause hypoxia in the tissue, and that problem cause. The nervous system is the level of consciousness will drop due to the less oxygen. And on the other hand, the cardiovascular mean, the mean arterial pressure when drop will lead to dysfunction of the several type of tissue. For the liver, when damage the liver due to the infection will lead to increase the bilirubin. While for kidney, when failure of the kidney will lead to increase the creatine, acute oligosuria due to the infection of the kidney and not complete urination. The thrombocytopenia is occur, and in this way the basically is thrombocytopenia will lead to cause the obstruction of the blood flow. Anyhow, I hope you make sense about that. That is the sepsis, the compensatory mechanism. Due to the pathogen infection will lead to multi-organ failure. And this multi-organ failure will lead to cause death if the severe case. And this sepsis is due to the pathogen, again I am saying. Thanks for watching.